For this animation in After Effects, this motion graphic is going to be focused on a couple of shape layers. The first one that I created was the pole star, which I created by selecting the polygon tool. You can use the star tool if you want to. I chose the polygon tool and I created a polygon. And in that shape layer under contents, you can see that I'm twirling the contents open. Pole star, the rotation and inner radius and position and the points have been changed. I'll just show you on a couple of keyframes, maybe the ones that are at the very beginning. I'll show you what changes can be made. See, the position is changing. Rotation, changing. The points, I'm changing, and you can also change the inner radius and the outer radius. So that's changing the points, adding, or the position of the pole star, the points, the position, the rotation, the inner radius, and the outer radius. The keyframe has been added at the first position. I moved up to the second position and made some changes. So you can see that as I scrub back and forth, that shape is rotating, and it's also changing the point number and inner and outer radius. Okay. And what I did was I just adjusted these two, added the keyframe, made the adjustment. The keyframe was added by After Effects. I pressed Command Copy, and I'll just get rid of these keyframes. Command Copy, after selecting two keyframes, Command Copy, moved my playhead forward and pasted. Moved my playhead forward and pasted. So you can see that the rotation is consistent throughout, and then of course it stops because I didn't add the rest of the keyframes. So I'll just go in and paste and paste. So now I have my work area set up, my playhead, I'm pressing the spacebar, my playhead is moving forward only in the work area. And I want you to focus in on this shape. So that is a polygon whose points, position, rotation, inner radius, outer radius, and let's open this up a little bit more. You see it, that inner radius has been edited. So we'll just close that one up. That object's color is purple. The stroke is yellow, but the stroke has been pulled down to 0 pixels. If I bring that up, you can see that the stroke weight can be thicker or thinner. That's kind of cool. Let's see what it looks like. Whoa, psychedelic. I think I might turn it off altogether. Okay. So we've got an object that is a shape that has been edited over time. Its position doesn't change, but its rotation and some of the positions of the inner radius, etc., have changed over time. I've created another layer, and I'm going to go into comp 1. Oh, sorry, my precomp. Going into my precomp. So initially when I was creating this comp, I had the flower object, that shape layer, and then I created a wave object. So I created this shape, one of these shapes. I'll turn one of them off so you only see one. I created this wave with my pen tool. And the pen tool, you click and you drag and click and drag and click and drag your shape just like you would in Illustrator, or if you were using the pen tool in Photoshop. And over time you can use keyframes to keyframe the path. So I'll just go in, not the adjustment layer, I'm going to go into the shape layer. So here is the path, and here are the keyframes for the path. So I'll just show you that, and I'll show you show you how to do it and how to edit it. Oh, there's two of them. There's that guy too. So I have to knock that back in. There we go. So if I want to make adjustments to the path, so on this keyframe, I'm going to make an adjustment. See that After Effects does work like Illustrator. So we've got our key position, we've got the Bezier handle, the key point on that path, and we've got the ability to move the point. So you see that I'm going to be changing that wave over time. Oh, swelling. So this is what is occurring in the animation. This is a precomp. This precomp was created because I wanted to use an adjustment layer on each one of these waves and not have the adjustment layer, which is hue and saturation. I didn't want that affecting the flower. So I'll just go ahead and play this one. I'll deselect to get out of here. I don't want to. There we go. So here are the waves. And here they are together. So now there's two, they're not identical anymore. And if I go back to my comp, you can see that that one in the background, it swells. That's the change that I made. So this shows that a precomp has been added to a composition. I'm going to go in, maybe I'll go back in time to before I created the precomp. Let's see if I can do that. If I can slip far enough back in time to before, and I'm pressing Command Z. No, I don't think I can go that far. Won't let me go that far. Okay, so I might as well start this again. So I'm going to create a new composition. Say OK. I'm going to grab polygon, create a polygon. I've created a polygon and the center point isn't in the spot that I want it to be in, so I'm going to activate the pan behind and I'm going to move the anchor point into position. Let's see if that worked. It did, yeah. Set that object where I want it to go or want it to be on the stage. Open up the pole star. The pole star path, points, position, rotation, outer radius, curve. Oh, sorry, star. More than 3 points. And inner radius. Move it in, and maybe I want this a little bit bigger. Maybe I want it a bit bigger. Okay, so I have, and I'll press Shift to constrain. So I haven't added a keyframe yet. I'm going to add a keyframe for rotation and for maybe just inner radius. So 2 keyframes were created. I'll move up number of frames and make a change. One and rotation. So if I scrub back and forth, you can see that the inner radius is changing and the rotation is changing. So it's going to be pretty simple. So Command, copy, move my playhead forward, Command, paste, playhead forward, Command, paste, playhead forward, Command, paste. I've made my comp a little bit too long, I'm going to take the work area and just snap it to the 140 frame position, and that's going to be the area that my playhead will play in. So this is the work area. And if I want to trim my project to the work area, I can right click, trim comp to work area. So now the comp is 140 frames. I'm going to close that up. So that's all of the work I want to do on this pole star. I'm going to now add or create another layer. It's going to be a shape layer that is created with the pen tool. So the same idea, I'm going to create this wave object. So it's an organic object created with the pen tool. That shape layer has come in on top. The contents of this shape, I'm going to swirl down. The path is what I want to edit over time, or have change and undulate over time. I'm going to open up the path, add a keyframe. I'll bring that to the very beginning, move my playhead, and start editing my object. Just want it to curve a little bit. To look like maybe waves are going by. This is just a simple animation to get you going with up right here. So because this object is rather smooth and it changes at the keyframes, it changes its shape. The keyframes are the object that I drew, and After Effects is going to produce the in-between frames. Let's see, the in-between frames have been drawn. After Effects. The wave object and the pole star are the same color, and I'm not going to change the color of the waves. I'm going to create an adjustment layer because I want you to see how to create an adjustment layer. So I'm going to deselect everything, go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. So an adjustment layer has been added above all of the other layers. The adjustment layer, I want to add an effect to it because it hasn't been added yet. I'm going to add color correction, and I'm going to add a, let's see, I like hue and saturation for this example. So hue and saturation is the adjustment that has been added. I'm going to swirl everybody open, and I'm going to put my playhead at the beginning, add a keyframe. And you can see that if I add colorize, see that it's coloring everything or every layer below. It's going to make some changes and do them quite quick so you can see what's happening. Then we'll play this. And you can see that every time I make a change, when my playhead is in an area that there is no keyframe, if I make a change, let's see what's going on. After Effects creates the keyframe for me because there has been a color change. So that's the last. I think I'll make one more. I'll make one more. Desaturate. Darken it up at the end. Ooh, scary. Oh my goodness. So as you can see, the adjustment layer has been added, and it's affecting both the pole star and the wave. What if I want it to only affect one of those layers? I can make it affect only the layer below or the pole star. Why not the pole star? So let's have the star change over time. So I'm going to select the adjustment layer, and adjustment layer and pressed the window key on a PC. So I've selected only those two layers. I'm going to go in and right click and go to Precompose. After Effects asks me, it leaves this grayed out, this first option. The second option, move all attributes into the new composition. This option will place the currently selected layers together into a new intermediate composition. Yes, that's exactly what I want to do. And adjust composition duration to the span of the selected layers. And they're the same. So the composition that I'm working in and these two selected layers, they are the same already, so I didn't need to turn this on. But I have it on, so I'll leave it on. I'll say OK, and pre-composing is very quick. The composition now, this precomp, it's going to show up in my project layer, project window, sorry. I have comp number 1 and precomp number 1. Those are the ones I showed you already. Comp number 2, that's the one we're working on, and precomp number 2, that's the precomp I just made, and comp 2 is showing that precomp 2 is inside of composition number 2. So I'm going to play this for you. As you can see, the pole star is changing color. The pole star is on top of the shape layer, that's the wave. If I want, I'll press the space bar. If I want the pole star to be behind the shape layer, see that now it's behind it. And of course, I still have the ability to change this shape layer. So if I want to change the shape layer, if I want to add another shape layer, let's say, I'm going to press or click and then press Command D. So now I've made a duplicate of that shape layer. I'm pressing the space bar to stop the motion. So here we have two of those waves. Let's see it, both of them at once. So I've got two shape layers in front of the pole star. What if I wanted another adjustment layer so I could differentiate between these two waves? I will select nothing, go to new layer, new adjustment layer. So I've added a new adjustment layer. Again, I'd like to create a color correction. Hue and saturation is the one I'm working on. Open or swizzle that open. The effect is hue and saturation. I'm going to pull my playhead to the beginning, add a keyframe for color range, and show you that that indeed is going to be affecting the layers, all of them. I haven't pre-composed the adjustment layer onto the second shape layer yet. I'm going to do a bit of editing first of that color. So this is hue and saturation. Let's make the color changes obvious. And we're done. I want that adjustment layer to only affect that new shape layer. So that new shape layer is shape layer number 3. Select both, right click, pre-compose, say OK. And now my two wave layers have an adjustment layer attached to them, or one of them does, the other one is staying stable. And I'll just show you what that looks like, the kind of pink one in the front. So pre-composing will let you select individual layers that you want to pre-compose together to kind of lock in together. It's almost like grouping in Photoshop maybe. grouping into a folder in a way. You're pre-composing, like you're making compositions, creating compositions that are going to, number one, make your project nice and clean. You're identifying or focusing in on specific areas at once, and you're able to make changes, global changes to the precomps or the comps, and add a whole like hierarchy of layers of these comps, but still be able to adjust each of the comps that exist. So I can go back to my project window and show you. I have composition 1, that's the original that I showed you when we first started the session. Composition 2 is the one that we just made now. I've got precomp 1, which is the 2 waves. Precomp 2 was the pole star that changes with the adjustment layer over time. Precomp 3 is that wave. So let's say I don't like something about this precomp. When white comes in, I find that a little jarring. So let's say, identify where that is. It's right here. I'm going to open up the adjustment layer, open up the hue and saturation, and the offending keyframe is here. So that colorization is the area that I don't want. I don't want the keyframe to, is that it? Yeah, blue, and then it goes to white. So it's too light. So we'll just play it again. So that's my precomp. So because I've changed my precomp, when I go back into my composition, we are not going to see this wave, this is the one in the background, turn white at all. So I'll show you that again. So what if I want to make a change to the pole star? What if I want to not have the adjustment layer play on it at all, or make it a little bit more subtle? I can go back in, and that is precomp number 2. Oops. Precomp number 2, and I want to go back to my workspace. Okay, I'm back into precomp number 2, and if I make a change to the effects, let's say if I want to turn it off altogether, let's see what it looks like. So there's no adjustment layer. Okay, if I go back to precomp number 3, no, sorry, not precomp number 3, comp number 3, you can see that the pole star isn't changing at all. So I know it sounds really complicated, but this is actually a more efficient way to work, is to create compositions and pre-compositions so that you can identify specific parts of your animation, really hone in on the specific parts, keep the separate sections, separate, and be able to make changes to those separate sections and have those changes reflect globally wherever you're using a particular comp. So I'll go back, press the space bar, and go back in time, 1 Command Z or Windows Z, and you can see that now the adjustment layer is back on. So Command Z or Windows Z is one of the key commands for undo, and you have, I don't know, maybe about 40 to 50 undos by default. On my After Effects, I have about that many. I know in Illustrator you have about 100. In Photoshop you have 1, but you have the history panel. In any case, it's a good key command to remember. Also the space bar to play and to stop. And that's it for this intro, a little more sophisticated than an intro After Effects session. Thank you.